Bhagavatam today. We're going to speak about Srila Prabhupada, personal Bhagavatam, not different from Srimad Bhagavatam. Just as your guest here, I've come here, and after here I'm going to Vaishnava Sangha Festival at Ottawa Temple, as long as that will be next week. And so just to give a little introduction, the reason I'm here is because I have the fortune of traveling with Srila Prabhupada for 2.5 years as his personal servant. During that time, I went around the world 5 times in 2.5 years. I never did come to this temple with Srila Prabhupada. I'm very happy to be here. It's my first time here. And I know Srila Prabhupada was here, which makes this temple all the more wonderful. Shakunatha told me, the floor is the same. In Vrindavan, we do this too. There's so many things we could do. Wherever Srila Prabhupada put his footsteps, you don't want to take that up. You want to keep that. Just like Vrindavan is Vrindavan because Krishna performed his pastimes there. So it's a holy place. It's a holy place because the Lord, all his associates, boys, everyone was there in Vrindavan. So because of that, it's a sacred place. In the same way, what I've seen over the last many years, everywhere Srila Prabhupada went, was a different every place. You start from New York City, you can see even now, after 50 years, I think it's some of the biggest book distributors in the world. We no longer do they distribute one book, now they distribute a stack of books. Everything that I see is Srila Prabhupada's books. Also, the reason why I wanted to give class in the temple. These are just things Srila Prabhupada established. But when I went down, I saw that's down. And I'm not trying to make a political statement or anything, but to me it was like a classroom going to make high school, which is not something I can really care about. But since coming to this time, I've seen how Srila Prabhupada, everything you're doing was George Washington Park, Washington Square. So he was chanting there way back in 1966 with his this was when they first went outside. And of course, like even some of us today, we were really embarrassed to be out chanting Hare Krishna in front of all these people. No one knew what was going on. But Prabhupada brought him to the park, he sat in the grass, and he chanted Hare Krishna there. And after some time, the police came up to him. Because they also, at that time, they didn't like see all these things were very unusual and should be stopped. So the police went up to Prabhupada and he said, you can't sit in the grass. At that time, we were allowed, while we were all sitting in the grass. And Prabhupada said, okay. And then he went by the fountain, he sat down on the pavement, and there he chanted. So that was almost 60 years ago, 58 years ago. So now we're invited there. The police, they're protecting us in the park of check. This was all good as you were Prabhupada. Everything you were Prabhupada gave us. So anyway, he started his day translating. And at that time, and also, I would literally be in the next room. We always had a bell. It's like the RT bell. We didn't have electric buzzers. First, we didn't have texting, phone, none of this. Nothing was there. We had a bell. And I had to be close enough to hear the bell ring. So I was never very far away. Just in the next room, sometimes in a hallway, sometimes in a closet. Sometimes my kitchen was in traffic, was a closet, walking out the manor. Right next to his room, I had a closet. That was the kitchen. Bucket of water, a little shelf on some blocks, and I would cook there. Back in the 70s, we would hear about Bhakti Vinod Thakur. And of course, he was very detailed, and he gave his schedule, what he did. His government work, when he chanted, when he read, when he translated, when he wrote, all these things were there. He was very regulated. But what I understood more and more is how regulated Srila Prabhupada was. Devotees regulated. Of course, he's not fanatic. He can do something, he doesn't. But regulation is there. So from that time until 4 or 5 in the morning, he would translate. Sometimes he would chant japa in his beads. Sometimes he might sit in where he was sitting and he would just take a little rest for 10 minutes or something, go back and translate. So then from there, I would get my first call around 5 in the morning. And that was what put his head to get ready for his morning walk. Which means he would go brush his teeth. What did he brush his teeth with? Anyone know?
Neem?
Tatum. Oh, tatum. Twig. Yes. Ideal twig was neem. That was first class. At that time in India, you know, just a bazaar, a holy bazaar, that was the invitation to go there. You could buy a sack of 20 sticks, a little bundle of all new twigs. So I would have them. But then travel, it didn't work. Just like coming here, we would send out, just like the Buddha would send them out. So there were certain trees that were very fibrous. Eucalyptus is also very, very good. Also antiseptic. So I was thinking of an antiseptic tea. The people Srila Prabhupada was very wonderful. We also had to be very, very attentive. Every moment. Actually, we all, Krishna consciousness I'd been with him for a year. And of course, when you do your service long enough, you become accustomed to what you're doing. You should become expert. Prabhupada said, the devotee is expert. He said a devotee should be one thing he should be expert in. He should not do everything. But one thing that means he should be very expert in doing. He called me in his room once in Vrindavan in 1975. Krishna Balarama Mandir. So my servant's quarters was right behind his sitting room, where he would spend most of his time in the sitting room. So we rang the bell, I went in, offered obeisances. He looked at me. He said, a first-class servant knows what to do without being asked. Then he said, a second-class servant, you tell him what to do and he does it. Imagine, that's second class. You're not first class. If he has to tell you to do something, you're already deficient. It means you're not attentive. Because you're regulated. The devotee is regulated. You should know all the time. So as a servant, you should be ready to know what to do. Then he said, third class servant. You tell him what to do, and he doesn't do it, or he does it begrudgingly. Prabhupada's English, that was very wonderful the way Prabhupada would speak. And his words, his choice of words, were always expert at everything. So he said, that's third class. The first class, you should just know what to do. Now he called me in his room to tell me that. So obviously there was something I wasn't doing. He didn't say anything. He just described. And you have to be attentive. Sometimes the devotees will say, Prabhupada had 11 years. He had more than 11 service in 11 years. And they all tell you the same thing. No one would want to leave you, Prabhupada, as a servant. But we were forced to. Not by Prabhupada. We were forced to by our own actions. Or our own inactions, our lack of attentiveness. Krishna consciousness means attention all the time. I've been with Prabhupada for 16 months as a brahmachari. And due to my own shortcomings and my inattentiveness, all of a sudden I was in Los Angeles, and I left Prabhupada's service, and I got married. Just like that. I was away from him for 8 months. During those, close to those 8 months, his servant was Satsuru Maharaj. But if you read his writings, he'll also tell you. He also became, Prabhupada, I need to go preach. I said that to Prabhupada after 2.5 years. I said, Prabhupada, I just didn't have it. Maya. I went into Prabhupada's room. It was in Hawaii. At this time, I already had a wife and I had a few-month-old child that I never had even seen. He was born while I was with Prabhupada. So now I'm in Hawaii, my wife and child is there, perplexed, like Arjuna, what to do for service. And I just wanted to stay with my family. I went into Prabhupada's room in Hawaii, a very beautiful room. I said, Prabhupada, I said, I wanted to stay here and I wanted to travel and preach. Prabhupada looked at me. He said, my preaching's not good enough? Imagine. We have so much freedom as devotees, and even now we see the temple's management structure so much independence. We had no independence. And when you were with Prabhupada, you were at the very highest level, the summit of having to be surrendered 24 hours a day. So that was his response. And that response was there because he knew I wasn't telling the truth. Different times while I was with him, I would say things maybe or do things that I shouldn't have done, and he always knew. He would tell me, don't try to trick your spiritual master. In Los Angeles, there was devotees there, and Prabhupada would go up to his room, and he could leave the sandals outside the door. So these devotees, they decided they wanted Prabhupada's sandals, his shoes. So they got the exact same pair, identical. So when he came back from his morning walk one day, they put the brand new shoes, put them there, and they took Prabhupada's shoes. So of course, Prabhupada knew it. And he said to them, don't try to trick your spiritual master. He didn't mind, but he said it's not a good policy. One thing we in Krishna consciousness, you have to learn how to be straightforward, truthful. Qualities of the Brahman, truthfulness, cleanliness. With Prabhupada, these things were summit, paramount, truthful, cleanliness, attentiveness. So I had been with him for a year as a brahmachari. And I had friends in LA. Prabhupada stayed there for a couple of months, 2 months, over 2 months. So my friends, they were grahastas. But they called it the temple apartments we worked at. And of course, I never went to Mangalarti when I was with Prabhupada as a servant. Because I had to be there. That's what I was never told anything in particular, but I knew I had to be there. And they kept saying, why don't you come to Mangalarti? And I said, well, I have to be there. I have to be there if Srila Prabhupada wants something. Does he ever ask for anything at 4 o'clock in the morning, 4:30 in the morning? I said, no. He said, well, come to Mangalarti. So the next morning I went to Mangalarti. So previously, Kirtan, Bharadwaj being only weekly, at that time, weekly, Agni Dev, and I'm still here from Agni Dev. So fortunate. So I went to Mangalarti, of course, it was new Dwarka, wonderful. Meaning Dwarkadish, Dwarkadai, Jagannath Sabhaka, Baladev, hundreds of devotees, because Prabhupada's there. So devotees are coming from all over. So the Kirtan, it's always like every day is like Janmashtami when they're with Srila Prabhupada. Every day is this ecstasy. So at the Kirtan, it's about 10 minutes into the Kirtan, I get a tap on my shoulder. And it's Prajuna giving classes. My temple president. From Vrindavan. He taps me on the shoulder. Prabhupada wants to see you now. This was, at that time, my Jumna and Shyama Sundar. Shyama Sundar was secretary, Jumna was Sanskrit editor, and I was a servant. And we all had very specific duties. Servant, my duty was Prabhupada's person. I was Pujari. The devotee once said to Prabhupada, I always want to stay at your lotus feet. Prabhupada said, that'll be very difficult, I'm always moving. So he tapped. Prabhupada wants to see you when he's really mad. This is what we would always say to one another. Whenever he was wanting to see someone, if he wanted Prajuna for something or Shama. That was the last thing he wanted to hear. Prabhupada wants to see you when he's really mad. And I knew what I had done. So I ran up to Prabhupada's room, and of course he's sitting behind his desk, and I'm sitting, and I'm offering obeisances. While I'm offering years, he would say to you. That's because he saw things on a very different level. Like heavenly planet level. 1 second is like 10 years. So he said, I've been making this bell for hours. And he said, where were you? I said, no problem. I said, I went to Mongol Arctic. You have no business going to Mongol Arctic. He said, you have to be in your room 24 hours a day. What if I need something? I said, yes. So I was in Maya because I went to Mongol Arctic. All of you, we're all in Maya. We don't go to Mongol Arctic. But I was in Maya because I went to Mongol Arctic because it wasn't my duty. One has to understand as a devotee, what is my duty? What is it I'm supposed to be doing? And that's what you do 24 hours a day. That's Krishna consciousness. 24 hours a day, nothing less. Prabhupada expected that from all of us. I never went to Mongol Arctic. Still, sometimes I don't go to Mongol Arctic, as Prabhupada said. In that same Los Angeles, New Dwarka was the headquarters. It was the world headquarters, 1970, from all the way up until 1975, practically. That was the world headquarters. So Krishna Balarama was there. He would go around. Sometimes he would go in the kitchen in New Dwarka. New Dwarka was everything first class. I see here, everything very, very nice. First class. Everything nice and clean all the time. Very good. They could saw the prashadam room. Yeah, everything. Sponge, everything has a certain spot. Yeah. That's Krishna consciousness. No clutter. No clutter outside. No clutter inside. So one time he walked into the kitchen. Now, when he walks into the kitchen, he's not by himself. He has an entourage. Just like Krishna is not alone. Prabhupada was not alone. So with him is the temple president, the GDC, sannyas, his servant, his secretary, and Prabhupada is walking around. And he goes into the kitchen and he sees pots, big pots in the sink, and they weren't clean. Dirty pots. Radharani's kitchen. So immediately he goes. You look right at the GBC. You went right to the top. Why are these dirty pots in the kitchen? One thing I learned from the very first day I met Prabhupada, you never give an excuse. You try to give an excuse, it becomes much, much worse. Your only choice is just to surrender. Can you? Sorry, that never happened again, which I never said that. But there's never an excuse. That much I know. Don't make an excuse. The GBC did. Well, Prabhupada, at the time that the devotee comes in to wash the dishes at such and such time, I looked at him. And he said, right now everyone is doing service, there's no one here. And Prabhupada looked at his GBC, he said, you're here, you wash them. See, Prabhupada didn't see different gradations of service. He saw spirit souls. That's what he knew. Men, women, brahmachari, grahasta, sannyasi, everyone was the same to Prabhupada. We were his servants. That was it. We were all just servants. Except for who asked me my name this morning. So I said, Sruta. I said, Srutikirti. And he said, Das. I got initiated 3 months after moving into April 22nd. It was our birthday, 1971. So 3 months to the day. We drove from Vrindavan, myself from Kirtanana, a few others. We went to New York City, Brooklyn, to get initiated. First initiation, right now. Every day, Prabhupada Bajai, Vishnu, Kumuna, Bajai, Bajai, from So anyway, the secretary at that time, Sharma Sundar, the secretary would call out the name. We're all sitting around the fire, which hadn't started yet. So then you call my name. And I went up and you know what Prabhupada's going to say. Always asking the principals how many rounds of chant and that, 16 rounds. So like most, I think I was very, very nervous. I'm meditating, I'm just repeating the four regulated principles so I didn't forget them. Some people would forget them. Ushakrata. I think he was initiated that same day, Ushakrata. Prabhupada asked him. So he remembered 3 of them, but he couldn't remember one. No intoxication. Prabhupada looked at him. Everybody, So my turn came. I went up and everything we were told. Left side of your body, cross, left side of your body, spiritual resting. So I did that and I sat up. And of course, Prabhupada looked at me. He said, what are the regulated principles? So I very quickly, no eating, no intoxication, no illicit, no gambling. He didn't say you chant 16 rounds. He said, how many rounds do you chant? And I was very proud of myself. I said, I chant 20 rounds a day. And he looked at me. He was not impressed. And then he said, your name is Srutikirti. And then he said, Srutikirti is the name of Krishna. It means one whose activities are world famous. And then all the devotees in the temple, we rolled. And then Prabhupada looked at me and he said, and you're Srutikirti Das. And he gave me my beads. I went back. So he said, what's your name? I said, I don't know. We would have to go to Prabhupada's quarters. On the front door, presumed to be the right, your Karni name, and then he would write your new name, spiritual. Eternal name, I praise, we write it down so we remember our name. So this is what it was only 16 months later. I was in New Vrindavan most of that time. I was also on the road show. Kirtanananda on the road show started. Mangalananda. That was very nice. And then Prabhupada came. August 1972. The last time he had been in New Vrindavan was 1970. There was a lot of activity that happened at that time in New Vrindavan in the society. People were confused about philosophy. One of the things they were saying, and Prabhupada said it all came from outside of this time, all these ideas. And some of the devotees were preaching that Prabhupada was God. Not that he was Prabhupada was saying, nipped it in the bud. Prabhupada didn't let things go on. Although something, they said Prabhupada had a way 3 times, so many times over the Srila Prabhupada. He said something once, twice, never got past 3 times. Finished. We see that. How do you know? Low, and a shade. 3 times. Utmost emphasis is there. So sometimes, and we can see in kirtans, there's so many kinds of kirtan. Prabhupada, he was very specific what he liked. Dancing, we know, Swami step. It's how he taught us how to dance. But as time went by, so many things, these passionate young men, brahmacharis, dancing out louder and louder. Sometimes he would never say, big offense. He said, well, if one is in ecstasy, anything. He said, but the standard process is like, how they dance. And I saw that he would say that. He said it once, he said it twice, he said it 3 times. And then he could understand it's just something that couldn't happen. If I say do it, you don't do it, it's an offense. Prabhupada didn't like unnecessarily have us make offenses. When I was a brahmachari, I'd been with him now, again, for almost a year. I was in class every day. They said, well, you were at Prabhupada. There were certain things automatic. I was every morning walk, 2.5 years of a lot of morning walks, almost 1,000. Classes, almost 1,000. I had to be right there every class. I never even considered not attending. These were things I could see right away. Before I was inserted, when I received Brahmin initiation, that was in Los Angeles. Exactly 1 year practically to the day from moving into the temple. This time we drove from New Vrindavan all the way across the country to Los Angeles. So it took like 4 or 5 days in a van. No windows, cargo van. 4 or 5 of us driving almost constantly.
You always had to be with Prabhupada during the class.
Yes.
Never
Yes.
considered it.
So because I was with Kirtanananda, I got a lot of mercy. I got to go on all the morning walks. I got to be in Prabhupada's garden in the afternoon when he would work. And I became the Krishna book reader in Prabhupada's garden. The previous one went back to his service. So they handed me the book. And then we got to go into Prabhupada's room, the sitting room with Kirtanananda after class one morning. And of course, again, when you were around Prabhupada, you become very, very nervous. Pure devotee. We were just in ecstasy. We were in awe. You become speechless. Your mind, you couldn't even think. At least I couldn't. Even in the room, you were there, and Prabhupada, Kirtanananda was there, Vladimir, my godbrother, and myself. So we went in, and Prabhupada was looking. He looks to Vladimir, he says, what's your name? He says, Vladimir. And he looked at me, what's your name? And nothing came out. And I heard Kirtanananda say, that's Srutikirti, Srila Prabhupada. So he would always say, nice boys, such nice boys. So while we were there, the servant came in with his breakfast. Breakfast was just basically fruits like that, yogurt, Why weren't you in class? The servant. What did the servant do? He gave an excuse. This is what I thought. No excuse. I learned it very first time. He said, well, Prabhupada, I was making you breakfast. Prabhupada looked at him. He said, cutting fruits? He said, anyone can do. He said, your business is to be in class every morning. Prabhupada understood the value of this association. And if you were fortunate enough to actually be traveling with him, he expected you to take advantage of his association. He expected you to be on the morning walk. He expected you to be in class. If he was speaking in his room to people, he wanted you to be there to take advantage of the association with your devotee. Because effects are there. It was 2 years later, 1975, now I've been here 2 years. And I traveled to Mexico City. It was probably my second trip there. We went on a morning walk. We're in what do you call it, a garden? Botanical garden. Most cities have botanical. There's probably one in beautiful gardens. So Prabhupada would walk. He generally liked to walk in gardens or on the beach. There was 2 favorite places. To be right at the ocean, walking in the sand, like in Los Angeles, there was Jugu, or you would walk in nice parks, good parks. So again, GPCs there, sannyasis, temple president, and I'm recording. I'm on 14 recorder. So I'm always right next to Prabhupada. Recording. He speaks, recording. So as he's walking, he stops. And he sees a tree. Big tree, but it's dead. And he looks, he just stops and he looks. And there's a dozen, 20 devotees all walking along with him. And he said, pointed with his hand, he said, why did the tree die? How did the tree die? One of the other things that I didn't do with Prabhupada was try to answer questions. Because whatever you say, he'd make you wrong. Was one of his ways he would have his humor with his disciples. You almost could never say the right thing. Why did the tree die? Sannyasi, GBC. Prabhupada became diseased. Prabhupada, he would love it. Shake his head. So now it's like a contest. And everyone wants to answer Prabhupada because you just want to have some intercourse. You want to have an exchange. Imagine, he talks to you. You talk to him. It could happen once in your life. Those devotees never forget it their entire life. That association with the pure devotee, spiritual master. Never forget it. So now everyone's thinking, because Prabhupada would ask these questions, and you never knew where he was coming from. And he wasn't coming from our place. He wasn't coming from materialistic understanding. So the next person, Prabhupada, it became old. Prabhupada shook his head. So now we're already going like birth, old age, disease, and death. So they already tried old age and disease. And I'm standing there with the microphone. And I've been with Prabhupada for 2 years. And I don't know, but I'm thinking, what does he want to hear? What's the pure devotee? How does he see things? How does a spiritual personality see things? What does he want? So then I looked at him and I said, Prabhupada, I said, the soul was gone. Prabhupada smiled. Yes. It wasn't coming from me. It literally was coming from him. He taught me that. He taught me how to see things. And even though I was not on that level to understand it, I could understand it to some extent. This is what a devotee sees. This is the difference between life and death. Spirit, soul, is such a simple thing. But none of us could understand it. We're trying to think all these different things. He would say things. Morning walks were very wonderful. Being with Prabhupada outside of the temple was the most exciting. To be on an airplane with Prabhupada was the most exciting. Because then he wasn't with devotees. He was surrounded by non-devotee people. And to see how he acted or did that was always very wonderful. On the airplane, Air India, we're sitting in a plane waiting for it to take off. And I was in economy. He flew once or twice, first class. What's the use? He said, we don't take anything they have. We don't drink their booze. We don't eat their food. He said, I don't need so much space. So he preferred just being in coach. So we're sitting there, the plane's filling up, Air India, we're in Delhi. And coming over the speakers is music, tabla, sitar, instrumental. Nice instrumental, tabla, sitar. And we're sitting, Prabhupada sitting, where did he sit in the air? The window seat. Prabhupada always sat at the window seat. And my duty was to sit right next to him. That was my thing. 10-hour flight, we were right next to Prabhupada. Your hands would be back. You know what to do. So he looks at me. He said, do you like this music? So immediately I got filled with anxiety because it wasn't chanting Hare Krishna. And being a cowardly person I was, I didn't say anything, even though it was nice. So listen, it was very nice, but I didn't say anything. And he looked at me, he said, it's very nice. And then, yes, Prabhupada. I told that once Hare Krishna was sitting by me. He said the same thing happened to me. He said, I'm sitting in the plane with Prabhupada, the same music, Air India is going on. Prabhupada looked at me. He said, do you like this music? Hare Krishna said, yes, Prabhupada. Prabhupada looked at him. He said, it's sense gratification music. Whatever you did, you were wrong. You couldn't do that. My very first experience, said when I went to Los Angeles to get second Brahmin initiation, sacred prayer. So every day I was in the garden, every afternoon. In those days in Islam, once you accepted a service, that was your service. There's no question of giving up that service, that became your service. He said when I first moved into the temple, they had a temple room this big. It was a Masonic temple. It was almost like a basketball court. And the first thing they did was show me the broom and the bucket. And they say, clean the floor, cleaning your heart. That was the first thing I learned. Clean my heart. And it was nice, cleaning the temple room. Again, where was I?
You were in the Masonic temple, like the basketball.
Yeah, that was a different thing. Anyway, it was in Los Angeles in the garden. Every afternoon, I went into the garden to hear Krishna book. His Krishna book. So I came, previous devotee left, came in, and the director said, here. And Prabhupada, once you read Krishna book to them. So there's only like 4 or 5 of us in the garden there in New York. Very beautiful garden, lots of tulsi plants and flowers. And Prabhupada, I learned, I wasn't a servant, but I could see. He would sit, sometimes he would chant in his beads, sometimes he would just sit quietly, sometimes he would talk to us, with like your own voice in front of him. And then he wouldn't say, okay, read this story from Krishna. He would just look at you and go, that read. That's simple. Just look at you. You had to know what to do. The first thing I learned being around brother, you need to know what to do every moment. So he's sitting there. He's always sat very straight. Always straight. Sometimes sitting out, sometimes cross-legged. When he sat there, he pushed his chest down. And he went, Govinda Mani Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. He said, we're proud to be Krishna's servants. We never hear, whoever hears devotee has pride. We're humble. Humble, humble, humble. We're going to be humble. The Prabhupada said, our pride is that we're devotees of Krishna, servants of Krishna. He said, everyone is serving. Serving their wife, their husband, their children, serving their boss, serving their dog. He said, everyone is serving. But we're serving Krishna. So go with your mighty Purusham Tamam Bhajami. And he looked at us. Not even just this. 6. And he said, what color is Krishna? This is when I first understood it. Prabhupada, he asked questions, but he's asking it because he's going to trick you somehow or other. Figured it out. Prabhupada enjoying with his disciples. His little young disciples didn't know anything. He enjoyed having fun with us, the servants. He said, what color is Krishna? So I think I did that. I think all of them. Wow. Why is he asking that question? So finally one Bhattacharya gravely raised his hand. And he was smart. In Prabhupada described the Krishna book. See, he's quoting Shastra. He said it's described in the Krishna book, blackish like the monsoon rain cloud. What did Prabhupada do? Shook his head no. And I knew he was going to shake his head no. I'd never even been with him. But I could see Prabhupada, he's funny. Prabhupada said, no. He said he's blue like the sky. He said the sky is blue because it's reflection of Krishna's bodily effulgence. The blue sky is because of Krishna's bodily effulgence. So what does he do? He teaches you how to see Krishna 24 hours a day. Everywhere. Krishna's everywhere. From that same garden I would pick night jasmine, night queen, night blooming jasmine. This goes on for a time.
8:30. 8:30.
9? 4?
8:30.
So I would pick that jasmine, which at nighttime, fragrance was amazing. The fragrance of the breeze, we carried that fragrance all around. So at night, before Prabhupada took rest, he took an evening massage, which was just him sitting or lying in bed. No oil, I would massage his legs, his feet, sometimes even his back. Sometimes he'd be sitting up, chanting on his japa beads, pulling down his counter beads. But when he laid down, I would give him a little sweet, the jasmine flowers, big jasmine. And he would lie in bed, his head on the pillow, see Krishna, you have to learn from the very beginning. Krishna is everywhere. How to see Krishna. First thing we learn, taste the water. That's Krishna. You know, Prabhupada said, even go back there, 26 seconds, I don't know. Even the drunkard, the wino, if he appreciates that taste, his mind is very good. That's Krishna. And if one understands that, even the wino, we also will become Krishna conscious, understanding, oh, this tastes very nice, this is God, this is Krishna. Everything Prabhupada did, everything in these books, everything he said, all his walking, his talking, was giving us Krishna. That's this Krishna consciousness movement. We have no other business than to try to understand whatever we can to develop our love of Krishna. Everything he did was to steer you in that direction. So, I think we're here for a few days. I believe every evening, Friday, Saturday, Sunday evening, I'll be in class. Tomorrow morning, so I'm looking forward to class and see what happens the next day. But there's little time left. Anyone has any questions, comments? Forgive me for being people here into the temple room, but very nice. It's Srila Prabhupada here. What can we do? Every day, and offer my respect, please, give me the ability to say something, try to glorify you. Yes?
Hi, Krishna. Thank you for such a great class. You mentioned one point that one has to understand their duty in Krishna consciousness.
What about I hear it not very good. So yes, it's a very nice temple you have here, very wonderful. That's also a mercy issue of Prabhupada. And his being here, this place is Kirtan. It's not just some mundane place. Lotus feet of pure devotee was here. You know, just like it's described even at Ganges, Jamuna, the devotees go bathe in these places to purify the waters. All of us who go there and take bathe back in their sinful activities there. The pure devotee goes in there and purifies again all that. So the devotees feel Prabhupada. Why? Travel around the world 14 times. Wherever he put his lotus feet, that became a teacher. Go ahead.
Thank you for the great class. You mentioned one point that one has to understand their duty in Krishna consciousness. And I think when you have a guru, like you were kind of instructed directly that this is your duty. You were instructed directly by Prabhupada that this is your duty, like being there for 24/7 in that one is your duty.
Yes.
And then you made a point that one has to understand their duty. For you going to Bangalore, it was not the case. You had to serve Prabhupada at that time. So my question is, how can one understand their duty in Krishna consciousness? How can one understand their duty in Krishna consciousness?
Your duty is? That's why Guru is there. Everything. And that's why it's necessary to accept living Guru. That's one imaginary Guru you can take on their own. A devotee once asked Prabhupada, Lord Chaitanya, you see Lord Chaitanya never speaks about taking initiation. And Prabhupada quoted the first verse of Shastakam, Shaidadarpa Marjanam. Humbler than a blade of grass. He said that means you take initiation. You become humble. Humility means you're going to take instructions from someone. So in order to know what to do, you have to take the Guru. That's his business, is to understand It's said just like you have a flame, or when we approach food, that's what they see. There's this little spark, devotional spark. So the business of the spiritual master is to fan. So that fanning is not the same for everyone. Just like back in the old days, they had the fire, they had the bellows, the thing. Well, if you give it too much air, you blow the flame out. And if you don't give it enough air, it also goes out. The guru knows exactly how to prescribe what he needs to do. So then, of course, within our society, management is there. But very much our management system that he set up, which is the temple president, the treasurer, temple commander, like that. Each place, individuals could exercise and become proficient in serving. We like that idea that everyone is an individual. One of the things we say about surrender your intelligence. No. Surrender with your intelligence, not surrender your intelligence. The devotee's thoughtful, and he's always trying to understand, what can I do? How can I best serve? And generally, the service is right in front of you. Not difficult thing to understand, just like you're here in the temple. So many things may come up. So in that way, we take service. But we understand that whatever we're doing, and whoever might be our above us manager, it's always service to the group. It's personal. I was in Australia, in Perth, Australia. I was 75. And Prabhupada was staying at this, one devotee's parents. It was a cottage. Perth is a beach town. It's right on the ocean. Like Los Angeles. So they had a nice little beach cottage. They had a swimming pool in the backyard. It was just a little house. And that's where we stayed for a week. So, as a servant, I had one period where I could be on my own. After I gave Prabhupada massage, we would bathe, and we would dress, there was tilak, say Gayatri, and lunch. So at this time, lunch was being prepared. So I had literally like a half hour at a time, where I didn't have to be there in the room. At least I thought like that. And there was a swimming pool. Being in a Western American swimming, I grew up near the water, river, and ocean. Also, swimming was a thing. So when Prabhupada would go, take lunch and then take rest for 15 minutes, half an hour. So I took the opportunity to go swimming in the pool. So I'm swimming in the pool, and of course, one young brahmachari comes up. Same thing. Prabhupada wants to see you. So he told me, Prabhupada had been ringing the bell, ringing the bell, ringing the bell. So this devotee knew, Srutikirti is his servant, so he didn't think about it. But finally, he went in. And he said to Prabhupada, oh, he said, you serve him. He said, he's swimming in the pool. Now, he said that in such a way as to, he said, call me out. He exposed me. But Prabhupada looked at him. He said, you're my servant. He said, you're all my servants. Not just that Srutikirti is my servant. See, this is our misunderstanding. We like pigeonhole ourselves. This is all I do. Devotees ready to do anything. That's what you should be prepared to do. And we have our services, but anything that comes along is required, we should be prepared to do it. So that's what he said to him. You're my servant. Just don't pick on Srutikirti. He wasn't offended that I was swimming. He said swimming is a Vaishnava activity. So that was okay. We're all. So in the same way, we're still all
Vishnu. So my question to you is, sometimes I feel that person has been being along with all my friends. We feel like, let's say I'm done with the services which my Vishnu master has given me, and I'm trying to put in.
I'm really sorry.
Let's say I'm trying to do extra service. I'm done with the services which my spiritual master has done me, and now I'm thinking, let's try to please my spiritual master, and I'm trying to do something extra. Sometimes spiritual master likes it, but sometimes what happens is, because our thinking is a little bit narrow, but we think in transcendental platform, and we might displease him by trying to serve him a little extra. So and you're trying to do, you're done with your duty and you're trying to serve him more, but you end up displeasing him.
We end up what?
Displeasing your spiritual master.
The spiritual master is never displeased. He might chastise you for doing something you shouldn't be doing, but actually he's always pleased. But his business, as Prabhupada said, is to chastise. Guru's business is to chastise, so you don't become complacent. You know the quality of the devotee. He's never content. At the same time, he's content. You know, we see with Prabhupada. It's not that you just have one quality is there. So many things. Like you see Prabhupada, he could become so upset. You know, the only anxiety they say pure devotee has is seeing people suffering in this material world. That's the only anxiety. The only cause for lamentation is see that everyone's suffering here in this material world, and they want to come back. So that's there. But at the same time, pure devotee, he's always in ecstasy. He's always happy serving Krishna. 24 hours a day. Mayapur, Prabhupada was ready to take a nap. And I would always be there. Pull the covers down, Prabhupada sat down. He looked at me, he said, I hate sleep. He said, it's just a waste of time. He said, whenever I'm going to take rest, he said, I hate it. It's just a waste of time. And then immediately after saying that, he lay down with sheets over his eyes. Just like a little child. So many things are there. We appreciate all of that. But it's all in service. He also, like I said, Prabhupada called me in and said, first class servant. That he called me in because I wasn't doing something I should have known what I should have done. He never did say what it was, and I still don't know why he said it. But I am convinced that it's because there was something I'd been inattentive about. Like I said, he didn't speak. He'd ring his bell, I'd come in the room, and he'd just look at the ceiling. That meant turn on the fan. Or he'd look at the doors, the French doors, and open the curtains, or close the curtains. You should just learn everything. We should become so expert in everything we can do automatically. This is what Prabhupada did. Everything he did for his spiritual master. He said he's always with me. He never said he's always with me. He said I'm always with my spiritual master because I'm following his instructions. So that's paramount that we understand the instructions. And what do we say? Guru is one. Because the instructions don't change. If they change, then that's bogus Guru. That's not Guru. Because the message is the same. That's why it's one. It's always the same. And that's why the potency is there. Because we don't change anything. I'm here for a few days, so we can get deeper in all of this. But one of the things I heard many, many times was don't change anything. He was empowered, founder of Acharya. He set the standard for everything we'll be doing here in Kali Yuga, except for 10,000 years with his books. So our business is to know And you get to know by reading his books, by praying, by chanting, and by seeking association of those that you see are Krishna conscious. So I think we should stop here this morning. It's 9 o'clock. Yes? My wife's going to stop here. Srila Prabhupada